Welcome to Nourished by Spinneys, the podcast which promises to inspire you to eat well and live well. I'm Tiffany Eslick.
And I'm Devina Devecha. This is a space where we hope to nourish your heart and soul. On this show, we chat with leading players in the food community, from farmers to foodies, as well as health and well-being experts. It's all about engaging conversations, fresh ideas, and fun destinations.
Absolument, which is my way of saying that we're bringing you this episode from Lyon with one of our cheesemonger friends, François Robin. François grew up on a goat farm near Tours and graduated in 2008 from the French cheesemonger school in Paris. Since then, he has managed the cheese department at Fauchon, the Parisian luxury grocer, and he now travels the world to promote French cheeses around the world, including Dubai at events like Taste of Dubai. He also teaches at French cheesemonger schools and is the author of Le Fromage pour les Nuls.
That translates to Cheese For Dummies, which is great. And when we talk about French cheese, what types of cheese are we referring to, beyond the ones we might already know about, so Comté and Gruyère?
Well, there's also Reblochon, which we'll talk about quite a bit. Comté, which you mentioned, is the number one cheese in France if you go by tonnage. There's also Beaufort, my mother's favorite and one of my favorites. Mont d'Or, another of my personal favorites. But really, there are so many. In fact, François told me that he's tasted over 1,500 cheeses so far, and he's far from done.
That is a lot of cheese.
Well, I'm a cheesemonger for more than 10 years, 15 years. So it's like 100 new cheese per year. That's not a lot.
And I mean, that's half the number of cheeses that you think kind of exist in France, but you think there's more, right? So
yeah, I think there are more according to the way you count it. But I'm working actually on the database of all the French cheeses as far as I can go, even if it's bottomless pit. You know, it will never end. But yes, there are a lot of cheeses. We can say that we are one of the most productive cheeses country in the world. Yeah. One of the most, if not the most.
So you'd been in Lyon a few days when you recorded with him?
Yes, I actually had been in France for 5 days at that point.
Okay.
We'd visited the Franche-Comté mountains, done a lot of cheese tastings, including an awesome blind tasting competition.
Right. How was that?
It was incredible because we were in like the basement in one of these huge cavernous spaces in Fort de Rousse, which used to be a fort owned by Napoleon, or built by Napoleon. And so you had this like drip, drip, drip of the water outside, these crazy smells of ammonia as soon as anyone opened the door, and everything was like really dark around us. And we ate a lot of cheese.
That sounds pretty intense, but also atmospheric. I believe you had a few different fun environments to record in as well.
Yes, so I tried recording François multiple times on this trip,
Okay.
but first of all, Chirag was crazy to trust that I would actually be able to do a podcast without him,
Okay.
our producer. So like the mics wouldn't work in the Fort de Rousse, which was super irritating. So then at the end, anyways, we tried multiple times, once on a bus, didn't work. So we ended up in our own cave,
Okay.
underneath a boulangerie, which was next to a cheese shop that we were visiting on the last day in Lyon. And it was like right near the bathroom doors, but it was the only space that was quiet. And that I thought, I looked for something that didn't have like super high ceilings. But then people kept coming downstairs to this basement bathroom and interrupting us. So, I mean, it was probably the most hilarious looking situation filming a podcast, but it worked, kind of.
Yeah, it was interesting to listen to the audio back because I couldn't really hear you.
I know. I mean, that wireless converter thing was showing me that both mics were recording, but it wasn't. And we've tried everything to extract it from those things. Doesn't work. So sorry, guys. If I sound a little bit distant and like I'm in a cave, it's because it didn't work. I am. Yeah. So one of the things that François told me while we were in our little cave is about the prestigious Meilleur Ouvrier de France competition, which is a tradition that started in France in 1924, and it happens every 4 years, where a new title is given to the best craftsman of their craft in the country. So you'll have like cheesemongers, different types of artisans. You could have someone who does wood craftsmanship, that sort of thing. It's amazing. It really keeps trade alive.
I'm a cheesemonger. I'm a regular cheesemonger, so my passion is cheese. And yes, I got a certain level of expertise as many cheesemongers, but I've been through a contest named Meilleur Ouvrier de France. I achieved that in 2011. It's a contest every 4 years, and you got to go through qualification, semi-final, finals. It takes you 2 years to prepare. It's a long process. And cheesemonger can become Meilleur Ouvrier de France, that is to say, best craftsman in France, but also, of course, chef, you know that, pastry chef, carpenter, masons. 250 jobs are allowed to have this high qualification handcraft related job. So yes, it's a bit special, even if it doesn't mean I'm the best. It's one of the best, by the way, un des meilleurs ouvriers de France, because you're the best on the day of the qualification, and the rest of your life, you're one of the best among them. That's the highest degree I got in my life. And it allows me to teach in my, I could teach in university, things like that, because it shows that I got a good level of knowledge.
What's the craziest thing you've done in this journey of cheese? Like, I think you were on YouTube, some major YouTube star?
When I started this job, I just wanted to sell cheeses in the store. And then I got the muff, and I speak English, so I've been lucky enough and working hard as well, but to be the go-to guy, cheesemonger, when it comes to talk about French cheeses around the world. So I had the chance to travel to Australia, to Southeast Asia, to India, North America, Europe. That's crazy by itself. But one day, I remember it was 4 years ago, I did a cheese buffet in New York. I did a cheese buffet in New York. And the day after, I did another cheese buffet in Shanghai, China. That is to say, I flew overnight, land, make the cheese buffet, and that's it. In 30 hours, 2 cheese buffet in New York and Shanghai. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
The other crazy and stupid and fun thing is that we've done together with a YouTuber, a pizza chef, and a lot of cheesemonger friends of mine, like Pierre Gay. We've beaten a useless record of how many cheeses, how many French cheeses we can put on a regular size pizza, 30 centimeters. And the number is 834.
Did you eat the pizza?
I tasted.
Yeah.
Eatable, because each bite you got something like 30 or 40 different cheeses. But that was to show that we have a lot of cheeses, and even more than what we thought at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And why is French cheese so good? I mean, it comes down to the quality of the milk and the terroir. But yeah, can you tell me why? What are the characteristics that make the cheese so good?
You cannot turn a bad French car into a Ferrari. You cannot turn bad milk into good cheese. It's not possible. It all comes from the composition of the milk, and the composition of the milk results of a thin interaction in a triangle, and each side of the triangle are environment. Is to say what kind of soil, the climate, altitude, the grass. Another side of the triangle is the animals. What's the genetic? Are they good in that place? Are they mountain cows or not? And what are they fed with? And the last side is human. That is to say, what we're doing with the cows, how you feed them, how you take care of them. If there's a thin interaction in that triangle, you got good milk. And then maybe, if the cheesemaker is good, you have good cheese. And maybe if the cheese affineur, the person that /ripe the cheese, is good enough, there will be good aged cheese. It's a process that is really long, and you need a lot of knowledge and tradition and passion, because it takes at least 20 years to establish a production. When you start a new cheese, you need at least 1 generation to master it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone wanting to get into it now, I mean, they've got to put in at least 20 years ahead
Yeah,
of them.
yeah. The result at the beginning will be good, but it changes every day. It's like you got to adjust to the morning milking, the evening milking, the season, things like that. In Reblochon, it was obvious. She told us a lot about that. And there's a saying, I love this one. It's easy to make cheese, but it's difficult to make good cheese. And it's super difficult to know why the cheese was good.
Yeah, true, actually. Yeah. And then with the triangle for the terroir, you've also got like protecting that sort of the tradition and that environment. You've got PDO.
Yeah.
So can you explain what that is, like what it stands for and what those controls are?
PDO are rules that protect this triangle, this interaction. So there are rules that are written and that are applicable all over Europe, European Union, that prevent French to do feta because it's a Greek cheese and Greek tradition, but also prevent the Greek to make Roquefort or Comté because they don't know how to do it. They could imitate, but it's better if it's made where it comes from because it comes from a triangle and an environment with using cows or goat or sheep or whatever. So that production is the PDO is protecting this triangle. And when you go into a PDO, you have to follow the rules. I mean, you can be, for example, there are temperatures where you can put the rennet in the milk. It's, let's say, from 30 to 35 or 37. So you can choose.
Yeah.
And that's one parameter at the beginning. So all the rules are like, okay, left and right limits, and you can go in the middle to express yourself. But it's good because it's protecting a tradition, a place, and it's not a patriotic thing or nationalist. It's just this is a birthplace of Comté, of Beaufort, of Fondambert, or whatever. So we got to protect that.
When we come back, François shares some incredible tips, the best ways to pair Comté, how to prep a cheese board to wow your dinner party, and the legend behind Reblochon cheese. All of that right after this short break. Welcome back to my conversation with François Robin. Before the break, we got into the importance of protecting the origins of cheese through PDO designation, the Protected Designation of Origin.
So what does that mean in this case? To have the cheese certified, as say Comté, it has to come from a specific place?
Exactly.
Okay.
So for Comté, the whole process has to happen in a 25-kilometer radius. So if you think about it, to make cheese, you're essentially working with basic ingredients, right? So milk from cows, goat or sheep, some starter culture, some rennet, and some salt. So the factor that changes things really is the environment.
So it's like champagne then, where it has to come from that specific area, but obviously you can have sparkling beverages, but those will not be within the region of Champagne.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then within these products with PDO or the areas, there's lots of different people involved. So you could have someone who's milking their own cows, who has their own herd, milking them, making their own cheese, and then like selling it direct to small stores or to the market. But then you also might just get just the cheese affineur, like someone who's aging the cheese. And, you meet all these fabulous characters wherever you go in France, and whoever is involved in cheese always has a great story to tell. And so like that crazy fort I was talking about, Napoleon's fort. So that has actually been bought by Jean-Charles Arnaud, and he and his son run this. And so there's over like 200,000 wheels of Comté in this fort. So he completely has renovated all the underground caves. There's areas where you see like gunpowder still from when Napoleon was there, when they used to store gunpowder. They splashed all over the walls. So he's turned it into this, as Francois calls it, a cheese cathedral. And he's really scaled up Comté there, which it's impressive to see. But then you're obviously getting smaller producers as well.
That is some great history. What else?
How many hours do you have? Okay, let's simplify, but it's the best PDO in France in a way, because the rules are super complex and strong. to prevent any bad making of any bad cheese making. So it's really a PDO I like, because the structure is profitable for everyone, and it's a cheese that everybody knows now in France. It was not the case 40 years ago, but now everybody has a piece of Comté in his fridge, whatever age is 6 months or 36 months, because all the family like it and can like it. And they're also working, so the cows are two special breed. They need 13,000 square meters per cow to feed year long. They must be outside as soon as is possible. You cannot milk them with robots. The milk must be stored between 8 and 16 degrees. That means the life is starting. The milk is collected every day back to the dairy. It must be copper vats. There are a lot of specifications. The list is too long for me to tell you that, but the triangle is perfectly protected. And also there are these kind of places that are quite mythical in a way that's, well, you're in a cheese cathedral. The guy, Jean-Charles Arnaud, yeah, when he was young, for commandos, so quite a good level. And in 96, he bought the place. Well, he didn't have the money. He went to the bank and say, okay, I want to age cheese here. His father said, you're crazy. And and he is crazy. He's crazy. The guy is like making a chef-d'œuvre, that is a masterpiece of lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never seen anything like that.
And in this place, the cheeses are flipped weekly, brushed, taken care of, judged, and they say, okay, this one can be pushed a little bit more. My customer want this kind of taste, I will give it to him. So it's like, every time I feel a bit emotional when I go there.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. A cheese fanboy when you're in there.
Well, my roots are farm. My dad was a farmer making goat cheese. So when I see such characters, I feel connected to where I come from. And that's the only reason, by the way, I'm happy to travel the world, because it's a bit crazy for a cheesemonger. But it's also my way to support the cheesemaker, the farmers, and to give them back, because I give them a voice, in a sense.
How do you eat Comté?
You can eat it like that for sure. I love to pair it with a little bit of black garlic. I love to make a kind of black truffle together with Comté in a roll with a young Comté, a bit of black truffle. You roll it and you keep it in the fridge for 2-3 days, and then it will infuse the cheese itself, and it's really good. It's a recipe I had in Fauchon together with a bit of mascarpone. Let's say that the third one will be lollipop.
Okay.
I love to have a choice of topping, like crushed nuts, pistachios, things like that.
Okay.
And you use pomegranate molasse or date syrup to dip your Comté, and then the topping like pistachios, nuts, and things like that. Whoop, let's go, let's crunch. It's a snack.
That sounded amazing. I love the idea of the black truffle with the Comté.
And the black garlic paste as well that he did was really good and quite difficult to guess, actually.
Okay.
One of my favorite ways to eat Comté is like a giant mouse that just goes and attacks the block of cheese and takes off chunks. Yeah.
That also works. But what other cheeses did you talk about?
So we also talked about Beaufort, and this is a super interesting cheese. Well, I mean, I find it interesting because I'm a cheese geek, but you get summer Beaufort and then winter Beaufort. Because in the summer, the cows are up in the mountains munching on these wonderful flowers. And it gives the milk and then the cheese essentially great flavor. It also gets like a sort of a deeper color, like it's more yellow. And winter, it's lighter, it's not so fruity, not so rich, but it's still creamy and still excellent. But if you have the chance to eat summer Beaufort, do it in life.
That's some really good cheese knowledge there, Tiff.
Oh, I can keep going. I've spent so much time with François over the last 5 years that it's hard not to absorb all his knowledge.
So that means you'll have some nuggets about our next cheese, Reblochon?
Absolutely. And you get two kinds of reblochon as well. So you get, and you can tell the difference between by the color of the disc that is kind of embedded onto the top of them.
Okay.
So you get a red disc reblochon, which means that sort of more commercial dairies have been involved in the making of that, while the farmhouse ones, which really you should go for, have a green stamp. And we went to visit this couple that live at cheapest, I don't even know what altitude. Like I was wondering if our bus was going to make it to the top. And I've actually met this couple before, 5 years ago, when I first met up with François in France, and they were in their 20s, and I just remember them saying that they only take Sunday evenings off. Otherwise, they're
Wow.
great example of owning the whole process. So they
Right.
have this herd of cows. I think they have like 12 or 15, right, living in a barn right next to their house. Then they're hand making reblochon every single day except Sunday evening, milking the cows. I mean, it's crazy. Like their work ethic was amazing. So yeah, really, really impressive. It just shows like you have this like romantic idea of cheese making, and actually it is so much work. So yeah, I wouldn't just say go off and try making cheese. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a lot of hard work, but it's such a fascinating process, and it sounds like a great experience. Did you actually get to try the cheese?
Absolutely. Or absolument, should I keep saying? I get to be like pretentious in French on this episode. Yes, and I've eaten it quite a few times. You might have even tried it as well on tartiflette.
Yeah,
So potatoes with melted cheese on top, great for après ski.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite dishes.
I mean, you can't go wrong with potatoes and cheese, really. So,
Exactly. And did you know that the legend of Reblochon actually began in the Middle Ages?
The story is part legend, part true, but at one point in Middle Age is Moyen Âge, so the people were not paying taxes with money, but with I don't know, some hay, some flour, some cheese. And in this region, there were tax officers. They were coming on one day and to have an idea of the volume of milk produced in a farm, and so they put taxes according to that volume. The people from Haute-Savoie, the department from Savoy, they were milking the cows, but not totally to the end, keeping a little bit of milk inside, waiting for the guys to go away and then finish the milking. That is to say, double milking. Like a repeat. A blochon, which is bloch, which is the local word for milking. Yeah, and doing so, they had a small quantity of milk, but super fat because the fat is going up in the milk. So you have the fat at the end of the milking. So they could do that creamy cheese, but in small quantity, taking the name of reblochon.
Tell me about Reblochon. Like, why do you like it?
Reblochon is a go-to cheese because it's creamy, it's runny, it smells a little bit of a cow, but not that much. So uh, everybody can like it. You can push it a little bit more in affinage. I I prefer that, but it's also quite affordable and not too expensive. And a lot of people are eating reblochon in a specific recipe named tartiflette. Yeah, the potatoes and onions and melted reblochon on the top. The reputation is coming mostly from that recipe that has been developed when the ski station started between 70s and 80s. But now today it's maybe a little bit too much because most of the reblochon is sold during the winter. And the best reblochon are in spring and summer because the cows are grazing outside. So if any one of you hear that, my message is go for the reblochon in spring and summer. It's really better, and you respect also the work of the people that are making it, as you were saying. Um, they have they don't make reblochon only on Sunday evening. It's their day off, but they got to milk still.
Yeah. I hope they do something extra special on a Sunday evening, like watch, I don't know, get a chance to watch Netflix because there's that couple, I'm
Yeah.
so impressed by them. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable what they're doing.
I think making milk is the second hardest job in agriculture. The first being growing vegetables, and fruits, because it's a lot of hard labor. But the second more difficult would certainly be in dairy industry.
let's talk about some cutting and
Yeah.
when you're putting together a cheese board. So we spent some time at Piaget's
Yeah.
beautiful fromagerie in Annecy,
Mm-mm.
and we saw how you can cut cheese in the most spectacular way using, you know, like cookie cutters and the way you use the lyre. And, you know, we made a board that looked like, you know, so I don't know, like something out of, like, it looked like stars and the moon and all sorts of things. But what can the home cook do? What tools do you need to make a relatively impressive cheese board at home?
You may use really thin cheese cutting knives. The big one, the large one will maybe crush the cheese. It's better to use really thin tools like a wire, the lira that you can use for the foie gras, for example. Nobody knows how to use that. It's perfect for cheese. Respect the cheese and you don't break it. It's really great. If I may give tips on how to cut cheeses, there's only one rule to be remembered is try to cut the cheese so everybody got a little bit of the rind and a little bit of the heart of the cheese. So if you have a round cheese, it's better to do like camembert type in the sun, you know, or coming from the middle, making triangle to the outside. Try not to leave the rind for the last guest.
Yeah.
And if you want to make an impressive cheese cutting, it's better to cut the cheese in the middle and then each part in the middle and then each part of the middle, so you are really regular in your cutting, and so you can do a lot of shapes. The rest is just arranging the cheeses. Also, if you want to make cheese platters, don't cut the cheeses that are too runny.
Okay.
It will run all over,
Yeah.
and it will be like a swimming pool of cheese, but not a cheese platter.
Oh, nice idea. Sorry, put it. And how long should you take your cheeses out of the fridge before you start to cut?
I love to put my cheeses out of the fridge like 20 to 30 minutes before, so they stay in good temperature, a bit fresh, like you say, 18 degrees, chambré as we say, so you still have some freshness in the mouth. People used to say that you put your Comté, for example, 2 hours before. If you do that, you will have a kind of oily surface and oxidated. It's not good.
Yeah.
The moment the cheese is out of the paper, by the way, is the best way to keep the cheese, food paper, because it breathes. The moment you put your cheese out of the paper, it will start to oxidate a little bit. So the flavors won't be the same. It will dry out quite fastly. Put that 20 minutes before you eat it.
Okay, great. So wrap your cheese in baking paper or food,
Yeah.
wax paper, and store it in the fridge.
You can use food paper for sure, but beeswax also, it's good. It's good. It's not good for meat or fish, but for cheese is great. It's great. Yeah.
And then some cheese tasting, because
Yeah.
I mean, I am going back with a hell of a lot of cheese, and I'm going to do an evening with friends. What should we be doing when we are tasting some cheese?
Take your time. That's the first rule. People are hungry. They want to, okay, let's go. And no, if you want to respect the product and the work of the producers, it's good to use your five senses. Look at the cheese. It gives you indication on the texture, on the rind. You see a lot of different colors. With experience, you will maybe memorize all this indication and think in advance. And then you get to smell the cheese, but smell the cheese means smell the middle of the cheese and smell the rind. Most of the time you have two smells, different smells. It gives you indication. For example, the Saint-Nectaire is really like raw dough in the middle and mushroomy as a dirt cave, a natural cave, or like walking in the wood on the rind. And then you got to taste the paste for all the sensation, like saltiness, bitterness, and things like that. The texture, okay, and the rind as well. It's also important to taste the rind. You may dislike it, but you may be in love with it. Yeah. So in most of the cheeses, if you do so, you will see that you have three cheeses in one: the rind, the heart of the cheese, and the combination of both. And it's really important. And also the last thing is to do what I call the back smell. That is to say, to inhale a little bit of air with your mouth and exhale with your nose. That will bring all the animal flavors back to your nose after tasting after chewing for a few seconds. I love to do that. It's really important for me.
Yeah, I love the idea of you've actually got three in one. We finished today actually with
Yeah.
this fabulous workshop making different recipes. And Charlotte, it's at a place in Lyon, asked us if we were a cheese, what would we be? What would you be if you, of all the French cheeses, if François was a cheese?
A goat cheese.
A good cheese.
A goat cheese. It always go back to your childhood. Your entire life is based on that, even for the food. Okay, so my dad was a good farmer. The first smells I had in my memory are the intense, and some people say stinky smell of a goat farm. I love that smell. Every time I go to a goat farm, I feel home. So it will be a goat cheese for sure. What about you?
I choose Mont d'Or.
Mont d'Or.
I love to eat that at Christmas time.
Yeah.
I love the shape of it. I love the texture, the creaminess. So yeah, it's gold, and I've got a heart of gold. So Davina, what kind of cheese are you? But I'll broaden the scope if you like. It does not have to be French cheese.
I was not prepared for this question, but I think I would probably be a goat's cheese of some kind. I'm not fussed about which one, just soft and creamy and a little bit tart.
So like François, he'll love you.
So, wait, did you forget to ask him the nourish question?
Of course not.
Okay.
My daughter, of course,
Yes.
first.
Yeah.
But what nourishes me as a cheesemonger is the hope that we can help the people that are working in the cheese industry, and that what I'm doing at my humble position is useful. If it's not, I change. I think I changed my job.
Okay, yeah. And you are humble. I mean, it's unbelievable because you're actually so knowledgeable and so well accredited, but to think that you're still humble.
Yeah, but
and you are. You know?
I don't save lives, you know. I just bring a little bit of fat in it.
And that's the good part.
Yes, it is.
You'll find a link to François' Instagram handle in our show notes, so you can follow him and his amazing cheese adventures. This episode was brought to you by Spinneys and is hosted by me, Tiffany Eslick, and Davina Devicha. We're produced by Chirag Desai. You can follow Spinneys on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for more, and also visit us at spinneys.com, where you can shop for fresh produce and a variety of local and exclusive products.
We'll be back next week with a whole lot of chocolate. See you then.